I'm going to be talking about 10 plus privacy tools, gadgets, and just cool things that I carry with me in my fanny pack, my tactical fanny pack, because it was made by a Navy SEAL. So that makes it cool, right? Plus, I got 4 kids, and I just carry a fanny pack. Don't worry about it. But I'm going to talk about some of the stuff. I won't talk about everything in here because some of the stuff doesn't have anything to do with the topic at hand. But I will be talking about the stuff that I carry with me every single day today in Operation Fanny Pack. All right, Jack, the fanny pack's back. But before we get into that, so you see this device that I prototyped a couple of years ago in front of me. Now, I'm always building gadgets and tools to fit my specific needs because at Privacy X, as you can imagine, I'm a target. I've been a target by countries. I've been a target by people. I've been a big target by organizations. And I also help a lot of clients from Fortune 500 companies to 18-year-olds just getting started in life, be private, secure, and turn into ghosts. And these are some of the things that I kind of prototype. This one is an Uno board with a Raspberry Pi and an RFID blocker. And I built in I've got a hard drive wired in. That way I can build in a data set for a VPN. And I'm able to run my own portable firewall. I even used a stepper motor to be able to manually switch on and off the components in here because hardware switches matter. But I digress on a big thing like this because I clearly cannot carry this around with me at a coffee shop or I would look insane. So what do I carry in the fanny pack, in the tactical fanny pack? A Microtech knife, if you must know. No, this is not part of it. This is just to show you how cool my fanny pack is. But this is a good fanny pack because it carries a firearm. Now, I know a lot of my friends in other countries, maybe you don't carry a firearm. This isn't a video about firearms. It's a video about cool stuff. So let's go ahead and open this bag up. Where do we want to start? Okay, we're going to start with MicLock. I'm a big proponent of MicLock. Now, I do have to admit that I have never been sponsored by MicLock, but I've had multiple conversations/consultations with the MicLock CEO. He actually signed up for a consultation with me. That's how we originally met. We talked privacy, security. Super nice guy. I highly recommend his products. He has sent me a ton of MicLock products that are incredible. But I will admit, I was using MicLock well before he ever reached out, well before he ever booked a call with me, well before any of that. So I'm not paid by MicLock. I'm not sponsored by MicLock. I'm just a very happy customer, but I did get a bunch of stuff for free. So again, just me being transparent with you guys like I always am. This is the kit that I chose to carry with me on a daily basis. Now, probably the most important thing, because it's actually shockingly, surprisingly, dishearteningly easy to tap into your camera, but more of a simplistic process for a base level hacker, not that hard, to tap into your microphone and turn your device, your phone, your tablet, your computer, your TV, got a smart TV, your home security systems are really easy because they're almost never locked down. Lock down your home security system. It is crazy how easy it is to drive by through neighborhoods and people have turned their cameras into listening devices on themselves. But that's a topic for a different video. MicLock helps out a lot to be able to block out the microphone. You can change a few settings in your computer or your phone or whatever it is and utilize a MicLock. So I'm a big proponent and I actually carry this with me everywhere. I use this on more than a dozen different devices that I use on a regular basis. And I do recommend, at bare minimum, you don't have to necessarily go out and buy a full kit like this. At bare minimum, you can go just buy something simple like this right here, right? Plugs into a phone jack, or something like this, which plugs into an iPhone, or something like this, which plugs into a USB Type-C. He's also got some dongles here for pass-throughs, which is really cool. Just some great products, and I can't say enough about them. It's something that the industry needs, in my opinion. Burner phone. You guys know that I'm a big fan of burner phone. Now, I will tell you that this entire pack here is blackout. So I've got blackout custom material built into here that I can block really strong signals. But I always, just out of necessity, I buy this material and I sew together custom ones, whether it's for my truck keys or whether it's for a phone or any kind of device, any kind of tablet, basically anything that's electronic that has the ability to transmit a signal. Now, you guys already know I've done burner phone videos. The Nokia 6300 is the best burner phone. It's the best balance. It's just the best balance for a phone. I burn these all the time. I store these. I age these. Make sure you're aging your burner phones when you can. Buy them in cash, and I keep in here my little kit. So, of course, I always keep a charging cable. I always get the longer one. Why do they give you charging cables this long? Or what is that supposed to do? So I always keep, a better charging cable with me. And then I also keep the battery. If your phone doesn't let the battery come out, you don't own the phone owns you, and it's listening to you all the time. It's recording everything you do, every step you take. The phone has become, your master at this point. And so your battery needs to come out, and it still needs to be in a blackout. I also keep multiple SIMs because I'm always burning through SIMs. My phone number's changing all the time. Here's a Mint Mobile. Here's a Visible. I've got a black SIM in there right now if I really want to go deep underground. You know what I mean? So I got these things in here. That is pretty important. Another thing that I keep here is this. You might be thinking, why you keep a poker ring and a leather thing? No. Inside here, open it up. Ooh, super sneaky. In here, more blackout material. And what's inside the blackout material? The keys to the kingdom. Or my Yuba Key. It's my Yuba Key. Yeah, it's USB-C Yuba Key that I can use to get into all my devices, because you got to have hardware authenticator. Hardware is everything. Software can be hacked, cracked, and jacked all the time. But hardware, you have to have physical, and I'm not concerned about anybody in my physical proximity, because that's not going to happen. So with that being the case, I recommend using physical, having backups. And again, I've done dedicated videos on all this stuff, so you can look through the playlist, look through my channel. I've got dedicated videos on this, on the burner phones, on the MicLock stuff. I broke all this down in depth, but I want to show you guys a realistic view of what I take with me on a daily basis, because I think this is very, very important. And for a lot of people, they don't fully understand that having a device that's secure is vital. Now, here's another device that I made myself. Now, it's not as alarming looking as something I prototyped over here. But so this obviously plugs into your computer. I've got a Raspberry board built in, a micro nano, and then I got a long-range Wi-Fi antenna that I wired up and soldered up. And this gives me a basically live VPN environment. I can remote into my server with physical access, my personal server. I can also basically create a roaming firewall. I also can run my nodes through here, because obviously with crypto, especially things like Monero, running things through the Tor network. And I also plug in a live version of Tails. That way I can have a virtual operating system through a phone. Now, I use a lot of Linux phones because I recommend having the ability to have your virtual OS outside of the built-in flavor of Linux or Android or Apple. Apple is going to be all boxed in. This is going to give you a kind of a better experience. So it's going to protect you to a certain degree. Again, I can remote into my own server. I can run everything through a live VPN. And I did a video talking about my Netgear night hockey. You can see right here, kind of that hockey puck size Wi-Fi box that I carry everywhere with me. Now, I don't carry that in my fanny pack because that would be absolutely ridiculous, but I carry that in my truck or my car. I carry it in, my backpack or something like that. That's a little bit more like purpose taken. I don't just carry that with me all the time. This bag literally, this bag is like with me 24/7, 365. It's by my, I basically sleep next to this bag type of thing. So these are the items, I have with me. I'm going to leave the firearm in here because, then the video is going to get suppressed even more than it already will. Another thing for privacy that I do recommend, kind of outside the box, if I can find it. Well, I do recommend, keeping a little bit of cash. So keeping, depending upon whatever type of cash makes sense to you. For me, being a poker player, it's a little bit different. But I do want to talk about, not cash necessarily, but keeping a little bit of precious metal. Now, you might be thinking, well, how's precious metal privacy? Well, I do keep, well, here's 3 ounces of gold, for example. So I keep a bar, a buffalo, and a American gold eagle. Usually I'll keep between 3 to 5 ounces of gold. That way it's pretty lightweight. It's not too heavy. but it's it's very handy to have in a privacy situation if I'm looking at purchasing things privately. And that's very, very important. And I won't open this case, but this is the case I keep my hardware wallet in. So these are some pins, and nothing special here, but this is the case I actually keep, well, technically two, usually one or two hardware wallets. I can't really talk about what hardware wallet is in here, because like I talked about in my recent video about hardware wallets, no hardware wallet's perfect. Now this particular one is I'm gonna do a video on coming soon. I've been testing it for about a year. It's very expensive, but it's worth it. But I keep it in this case. And so this is my hardware wallet. So, I talk a lot about Monero, precious metals, and cash. Well, there's plenty of crypto on this. Here's a little bit of cash, and here's a little bit of precious metals. Like I keep those with me on a daily basis because I feel like those are fundamental as part of your privacy strategy. Now, another thing is, this is an actual tactical pin, but so it came with a handcuff key in the back of this, but I actually reshaped the key. I don't want to show the teeth, but this is actually a key on the other side. I reshaped this key, and I got to be careful how much I show, because technically you can recreate a key from a picture. I've seen people do it. But so this is one of those cool tactical pins that come with a handcuff key. It gave me the idea to re-key the key that's inside this pin, and the key that's inside this pin actually is keyed for a hardware switch on my laptop. And so I paired those keys together. So this is the key to be able to use the hardware switch on that. So kind of works out good. You can get one of these. These pins aren't very expensive, probably $30. And then I just rekeyed the key in my shop to set that up. So that's something that I definitely carry with me and that I think is very good for privacy and security. Now, carrying a set of lock picks with you like I do is not necessarily necessary. I'm fascinated by locks, and I think that it's a very valuable thing to understand how locks work. But, we're not going to talk about picking locks. But what I am going to talk to you about is privacy when you're in a specific room. So this is just basically a really nice set of lock picks that I've kind of put together over a few years. The picks that I use the most for, in theory, allegedly, the picks that I use the most, the one that I use. I buy a lot of stuff off the Sparrows website. Again, I just think they make really good stuff. I own probably everything they have on their website in my shop because I'm obsessed. When I get into something, I'm the type of person who gets obsessed with it. And then there's no end. But I don't necessarily, the lock picks don't necessarily, but these are actually very handy for privacy and security. These are what's called hotel keys. Now, when I show you this part, you're like, well, that's just a regular key. It is and it isn't. It's actually pretty cool if you've ever seen how these work. And I use these in hotels. I've used them in conference rooms. It's basically to make the key not work. You slide it in. Look, it looks like a regular key. You pull this part out. This hook right here hooks on the pins, and the regular key won't work. I have to slide this piece back in, and then the whole thing slides out. It doesn't even catch on the pins. It works perfect. They're called hotel keys. They work in lots of scenarios, but I always keep a set of these with me, especially if you're somebody who travels, if you're nomadic, you go to hotels, motels. Now, a lot of hotels have more of a digital solution. A lot of hotels, I stay in nicer hotels like in Vegas, or, you stay in a hotel in Dubai, you stay in a hotel in Florida. You're going to have more of the digital, and there's different tools you can use for that. I bring specific tools based on that. Maybe I should do a hotel room video sometime. That might be a kind of cool video. But these I carry with me all the time because you never know what situation. Now, again, having lock picks is good. I build locks. I have a few patents, and I have a bunch of lock designs. I'm kind of fascinated by locks, and so for me, I do that a lot. So I keep lock picks. Not necessarily something you need, but those hotel keys, I'd recommend all of you invest in, especially for females, because unfortunately, females are massively. Unfortunately, there's a lot of creepy dudes out there, and so having something like that to make it impossible. I mean, somebody would have to drill out the lock. You know what it takes to drill out a lock? You're going to hear them coming. It's not a quiet operation like you see in a James Bond movie where they got a secret drill up their sleeve. It's a full-blown deal. So even if somebody tried to drill out the lock, it'd allow you to be 100% secure and not have to worry about if somebody has a key. Because even if they have a key, even if they have a master key, it doesn't matter. You cannot fit a key in the keyway until that other piece of that key fits in. So very good for privacy, very good for security, and I personally highly recommend it. Now, this is just another micro tech I forgot I had in there. You don't need this at all. I do recommend a Leatherman, but I'm not going to talk about that. I've actually talked about this in a video, so I'm going to set this aside. Again, this is just live. I didn't like put this together for the video. This is kind of what I take with me, and so, you know, there's no telling. Oh, a lot of people ask me about passwords. Now, this is one of my favorite books. I've got the small edition, and this is called The Expert at the Card Table. Now, obviously, I'm obsessed with cards. I'm very, very good at sleight of hand. I'm very good at cards. I practice every day. I've practiced every day for a long, long time. But having your passwords is important. So what I did was I actually had this book printed. Now, this is just a regular book, right? Looks like The Expert at the Card Table. Most of you saw this book. You're like, oh, that's cool. Card tricks that I can't do. And then you look through it. What I did is I have some very important passwords. Now you might think, well, Cody, where's your very important passwords? It looks like a regular book. This is not the actual book. I had this book reprinted. I had it rebound, and you can kind of tell it's not perfect, but you would, unless you're like a master bookbinder, you're never going to tell that this isn't perfect. I mean, if you see it, you can't tell. I took the original one out, that's at my house, and I used this is the real cover, and I put this in. Well, why would you do that? Well, I plagiarized everything, but there's a few different places in this book that I know of in my mind that actually, if you go down, I changed some of the words. And so it's my password in this book. Now again, nobody is going to be able to know that. You would have to take this book versus the other one, and you'd have to go through it page by page to try to find any discrepancies, to try to find what potentially could be my password. Now, nobody's going to do that. Now, you might be thinking, well, Cody, if you went through all that trouble, why are you telling us this method? Well, because actually I just came up with a new method. So this method is going to be changed, which is the only reason I'm showing you this. But I actually had this printed. Now, to have a book printed is actually only a couple of dollars. I did this back in like 2018, I believe. But I'll just tell you, there's 7 pages on this book that I've slightly, and I mean slightly, all the original drawings. I mean, I even had it, look at the gilded edges. Like, this is identical. If you had this book next to it, they're identical, except for I altered basically 7 pages. That's all I did in this book, alter 7 pages for some key passwords. Nobody is ever, well, the guy who wrote this book, technically, that's a whole nother story because nobody actually knows Erdnase is a pseudonym. It's a whole disguise. It's a whole thing. It's an interesting story. But there is no author because they don't actually know who the author is. And even if they did, he's been dead for a long time. And so you would have to be a fan of this book like I am. I have first edition copies of this. I have original copies. I have probably 15 copies of this book. And even I would have to go word for word, even though I know this book almost inside and out and read it all the time. It's how you learn a lot of high-level card sharp and high-level card mechanics, like Richard Turner style stuff. This is like the Bible for card mechanics like myself. Well, it's also a great idea. Now, you don't have to do it with this book. You could do it with any book, and nobody's ever going to find it. There's nothing to find. And I'm telling you right now that it's a great way to have passwords to specific things. Now, would I have my bank password in there? No, obviously I have encrypted files. But it's a low-tech way that is impossible to be hacked. And even if somebody got physical access, they'd have to know. And because of who I am and what I do, somebody's going to say, oh, yeah, this freaking guy who's obsessed with cards, he's got a card book. Big shocker. They're going to throw that aside. They're looking for money. They're looking for gold. They wouldn't be looking for my book. So that's another thing you can keep in mind. A couple more lock picks. These are those Lucy. These are pretty interesting. These are changing the game in lock picks. Probably a lot of the lock picking channels. You've probably seen some of those. Now, this is where I keep my actual thumb drive. Now, again, if you know anything about magic and how magic works, it's the art of deception. It's sleight of hand. It's misdirection. Well, I live in the desert. I live in Las Vegas. You guys know that. I've showed you Vegas. I've been in Vegas for me to have chapstick makes sense. And I do have chapstick. But also, just like chapstick, this is a thumb drive. Having things that don't look like the things that they are is important. And so that's where things like this. This is a regular book with 7 pages altered. And this is a chapstick, but it's actually a thumb drive, right? And I've showed you that in my other video where I showed you a bunch of other gadgets I have that look like pens or look like things, and there are other things inside of them. Well, I keep a simple thumb drive in here, and it's an encrypted thumb drive that has important information that I want with me at all times. Now, this is my case for my hardware wallet. This is where I keep some of my crypto. The crypto that I carry with me every day is in this case. Well, the hardware wallet's in this case. The crypto's on the hardware wallet. This thumb drive is where I keep other important documents. And then, of course, using a hardware authenticator like I showed you in here is important. Now, again, this is something I made myself in my shop. It's not that difficult to do. And I just fitted a encrypted thumb drive to this housing. And then it is what it is. All of you guys have seen those you know, something that looks like something, but it's something different, right? Let's see. Oh, for privacy, and I've talked about this before, for privacy, for security, you need to be wiping things down. In the world of biometrics, this may seem simple and stupid. In the world of biometrics, having alcohol pads with you, I go through boxes of these. I buy them by like Costco-sized boxes. So I'm always wiping everything down. If you went in my office, if you went in my house, if you went in my shop, if you came here on set, you'd be like, oh, this guy doesn't use this. Because I'm always wiping everything down because in the world of biometrics, this is very, very, very important. And biometrics, even if you don't want them to become a thing, you can say, oh, I'm not. The fact is, they're becoming more and more of a thing. And vein reading, palm reading, and I'm not talking about those stupid tarot cards, but actually being able to read the vein. Biometrics is becoming a very, very serious thing. So understanding this is important. Now, I've actually been in talks with a company that makes glasses and contacts to alter the perception of your eyes because retina, iris, eye scanning is the future by 2030. It's going to be the norm, and everyone's eyes are going to be scanned everywhere you go on every security camera. So altering that, so I've been working with a few companies, and I've got the CEO who I'm thinking about, I might be able to do an interview. He's very underground. He's worried they're going to kill him, which he's not wrong. There are organizations after him. But I've been trying to do an interview with him, even if he doesn't show his face, but talking about his because he's like out there. Like, I'm pretty smart, and I'm pretty handy, and I'm pretty technical, and I have a team that's very smart. I work with a lot of high-level hackers, gray hat, white hat, black hat, people in the industry, obviously in Vegas, DEF CON. But, like, this guy is leagues of his own. This guy is developing, like, space-age Jetson-style technology, and so I want him to do it. And we've been talking. We've become kind of friends, and I've been testing out some of his I don't have him in my possession because he's very closely guarded, but I've tested a few things out. And we've talked a lot. We've talked about a lot of things, and I'm very hopeful for the future of his technology. I'm actually looking at investing a substantial amount of money into his company if he can kind of take it to the next level. The problem is he's one of those guys who his product becomes kind of his baby, and he doesn't want to let his baby out into the world. And so if he doesn't do something, eventually some genius is going to pass him by. But he's legit. Like, I'm a smart guy who's clever and handy and can do a lot of stuff. This guy's a legit genius. Like, he's genius level. And so I've been working with him on a bunch of stuff. Another good place to hide stuff is in your Olight or in your flashlight. These are handy to have. There's nothing special about this flashlight. Like, this chapstick's actually a thumb drive. This Olight's just an Olight, but they're handy to have if you need a flashlight to go along with your Leatherman. Look, they're magnetic. Hey, look at that. And then the other thing that I wanted to say, I had something in here that I'm not seeing, which is very handy. I told you I'm doing this off the cuff. I'm doing this live. Well, not live, but I'm doing. I just grabbed this bag. I have this bag with me every day. There's a few things in here that I'm probably not going to take out. Probably. I do carry an actual handcuff key, and like this has a bunch of like. Escape and evasion type tools. In fact, escape and Bluebird Pow! Escape and evasion is important. I've taken a few classes, been to some seminars. This is actually a titanium escape and evasion ring. It's got an insert, like one of these little saw inserts in it that's kind of cool. I can't remember the company that made this, but they sent me some stuff. I get stuff sent to me all the time. Or actually, I decline most of it, but yeah, this was sent to me, and it's actually kind of cool. It's one of those titanium escape and evasion rings. So it just looks like if you're a guy, maybe like that's your wedding ring, and then bloop, inside it's got that escape and evasion saw, which is pretty cool. Anyway, that's really all I want to show you. I think that's 10. Those are kind of some things that I really recommend you have. I certainly recommend you have a firewall, or you have at bare minimum a VPN. Now, for me, having Tails is ideal. I could run Tails right off a thumb drive as well. Having a hardware authenticator is very, very important. Frankly, for most of you guys, if I'm being brutally honest, if you just had a hardware authenticator, a MicLock, and a burner phone, just those three, hardware authenticator, MicLock, and a burner phone, you're set. But I like to make my purchases private. I rarely use cards. Like, I use ghost cards online, but in person, I almost always pay in cash. Vegas is a very cash-heavy city. Also, in gold and silver and precious metals is becoming legal tender again. There's a lot you can do. And, of course, I recently talked about, you know, gold and silver and precious metals. You saw my recent show where I talked about all of that, so all of that is a thing. But anyway, I just wanted to touch on some of this. Also, make sure you have the alcohol pads, very important. Now I have a giant mess I have to clean up, but frankly, this is kind of a good option for you guys to be able to look at actually buying things privately, communicating privately, securing your devices, authenticating your devices, securing your cameras, hiding your passwords, hiding your encrypted files, right? It gives you kind of an ethos to think about when you're doing your stuff. Right, privacy guy? Yeah, right. So anyway, guys, really appreciate you checking out this video. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Putting out new content here on Privacy X all the time. I've got some really interesting videos that I want to, now that we got the new set, a lot of you guys have been asking about the new set. You see that? Signed poster of my favorite movie, Tombstone. I'm your Huckleberry. That's Doc Holliday, signed by Val Kilmer. That's pretty awesome. I got a script, Tombstone script. I mean, that's a reproduction script, obviously, but it was signed. Some script was signed by the whole cast. That one's just a reproduction. Got a whole bunch of Doc Holliday stuff over there. Got a bunch of, those are 1 ounce silver coins there. And I'm putting this set together, pretty cool. That's a signed David Blaine. That's an uncut sheet from David Blaine's actual personal collection. That's an interesting story how I came across that. That's a 3D printed Doc Holliday over there, which is pretty cool. That was, yeah, lots of cool stuff. So I'm going to be building out some cool stuff on the set, but I'm building like a test environment, which is pretty cool. And we're going to be doing more tutorials now that I've got everything kind of back together and set up. So have an amazing day, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Wow.